Greetings, welcome back to Mad Poet Podcast. I am Alex Murdoch, the Mad Poet. Good to be here. Pleasure to have this person on, this guest of mine. And interestingly, healthcare worker and surgery scheduler, if I get that right.
Correct.
But an author, and the title is The Dancing Wolfman. Very, we're going to explore it today, so looking forward to it, but definitely, keep an eye out for that one. Mr. I'm not sure if you want to share the other name, but Rick London is the
That's perfect, yeah. That's my pen name, yeah.
Your pen name. Do you share your other name, your main name as well?
Yeah, my name is Ricardo, but my nickname from Ricardo's Rick. So yeah, and interesting. You're in London. I picked London because my story is a werewolf story, and when I was coming up with pen names, I was thinking of I came up with certain names, they didn't work, right? And then I thought, it's like, okay, this is a werewolf story, right? And most of the famous werewolf stories are set in England, right? And so in respect to England, and my favorite movie, I don't know if you've ever seen it, American Werewolf in London. It's a great movie, right? From the late 70s or 80s. Yeah. So in honor of that, in honor of England, and all the werewolf stories, the werewolf story, the lore doesn't come from England. It comes from like Eastern Europe, but all the stories are made famous in England. So in order for me to pay my respects, I chose London, right? Capital of England. Catchy name.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's such a name that sticks with you. Rick London.
Thank you.
Yeah, very interesting, man. Let me just share a quote with you, quote from a piece. And this will be the quote for this episode. And then we can convene our conversation. I roughage diet until I grow rough. Grinch on a diet of nuts and bolts. Extra bruises for the nightmare would have me in knots. With a will that was tenderized, causing my resolve to fall short. What a world when the world exists with a problem they can't solve. What a world when there is no love. Unconditional, the religious spill for all. Roaming to grow just to hold like dust. Thus I fall. Yeah, that's the quote for the day.
All right.
Yeah. A little bit of a quagmire, that one, but I found this one in the archives and I thought to myself, you know what? I think this would go do well with, where we're heading today. What I was thinking about is the premise of your creation. For such a primal creature as the Wolfman, the idea of vulnerability alone is enough to cause an outrage, internally speaking. A sort of disparity, conflict, character conflict, or persona conflict, meaning between the two, I would imagine the light and the dark, the man and the wolf, so to speak. To encourage a further split, fight, conflict, perhaps, in personality personas, sort of thing. It's just like don't know yourself, or you're fighting yourself, sort of thing. But you're using it to soothe the beast, a sort of lubrication fluid between the two characters, meaning the human and the animal side. I want to know, what inspired this part of the premise to use music to soothe soothe the beast, so to speak?
That's a great question. I love being asked that question. I'm a music lover, like almost every human. I grew up in the '70s, Alex. I grew up listening to funk, mostly R&B. They called it soul music back then. Then became R&B. A little bit of rock, and then as I matured, as I got older, I started exploring other types of music. So I'm a music lover. I love all kinds of music. But what really came about, Alex, is if you look at the screen where I'm at, last year when I was coming up with the story and how to expand the story, how to bring in the central theme of the story about the music. Right behind me in the wall, my son was taking a music class. One of his best friends is a trombone player. He still is. And so my son, his name is Laszlo, and his middle name's Alex, by the way, like yours. So yeah, Laszlo Alexander. So my son was taking music class or learning the trombone, and he would bring the case home and he would lean it against the wall behind me. And as I'm thinking about the story and outlining the story, I'm like, how am I going to make this work? Because I didn't want to write just another werewolf story.
Yeah.
The same arc as most of the werewolf stories. So I'm like, I kept looking at that trombone case, and I'm like, hey, you know what? They gave me an idea. Let's incorporate music. And then the first thing that came up to my mind is, I believe Shakespeare came up with this adage, right? Music calms the savage beast. I believe it was Shakespeare, right? So music calms the savage beast. I go, okay, how can I do that? So in order to make it somewhat believable, even though it's a werewolf story, of course, fiction, I had to write in my character where he's been involved with music since he was a baby because of his parents. They were always playing music as he grew up. They taught him how to dance. All the people that were around them were all music lovers in the music industry in somewhere. They had great parties. He became a great dancer. And so music is deep in his soul. And so, when he becomes the werewolf for his first transformation, he can't, once he becomes a werewolf, that's it. He's going to become this vicious killer, right? Like in all stories, because he's about to kill, but right before he's about to kill his first victim, he hears music coming out of her ear pods, and it transforms his consciousness back to who he is. And because he's a morally grounded guy, he becomes a morally grounded werewolf. So, he doesn't act out on those primal instincts of the werewolf. So instead, he becomes a savior, because that's the only thing he knows how to do. He doesn't know how to kill. He can't come to killing a human. So instead, he becomes a savior. Even though, and if I don't know if you've had a chance to read the book at all, but later on, as it progresses too, he even comes across. I wrote this really good chase scene. He really comes across this person who looks like an antagonist, and even that person, discovers how morally grounded, Titus is as when he becomes a werewolf because of the power of music. And that was a great question. Thank you.
That's interesting, man, and I appreciate you sharing, because these are things that I think people would want to know either way, whether they have read the book or haven't. I think it's such an intriguing thing to hear, the inspiration behind what you've created, brought into this world, so to speak. This is something that was inspired by just the whole idea of your story as well. And you can perhaps piggyback off the story, or you can just make it more of a real life explanation. But I want to know, how do you think our fallacies enhance our experience as humans?
Let me see. Fallacy. Oh, you mean like our weaknesses or
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, our weaknesses or vulnerabilities and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, let me see. That I've never been asked, but that's a really thought-provoking question there. I guess for my character, his weakness is being a loner. Even though he's surrounded by a bunch of people being a teacher, um, he's not, he doesn't have a great social life as he just focuses on, you would think, right, being a DJ, he would be introduced to so many people.
Yeah.
But that's not his style. So maybe his weakness is not just being outwardly social. I've had that other people mention that, right? It's like, hey, your character's kind of an introvert, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, because I didn't write in the book. I could have wrote in the book like where he's doing some DJ gigs and people were, it's like, hey, let's go party and all this. He's not a big party animal. So maybe his fallacy is just being alone and not having a whole lot of people to lean on, to depend on, except the faculty at his school, co-workers there, people in the music, and then him becoming a werewolf. All of a sudden he's introduced to two key characters in the book who become his close allies, right? And one of them being his love interest. So if anything, I would say his being introvert in somewhat, him becoming a wolfman, he's kind of forced into all of a sudden having to expand his world and figuring that out and making, bringing in people and trusting them. And that's a great thought there. It's like I didn't think about that. I could have expanded that on the book.
I was thinking about this character that you've created, and as you mentioned, is an introvert. So for me, instantly I'm thinking that's somebody that is perhaps, well, the problem solvers, aren't they? But at the same time, it's like he's her own anchor, so to speak. And so when you brought in the whole idea of music, I'm thinking,
excuse me,
there's a therapeutic level there, a sort of way to sort of kind of bring himself back into balance, where the beasts don't necessarily have too much leverage over him. And now you're going into the idea of like the limbic system to kind of calm that part of his brain, so to speak, to sort of kind of give him a bit more cerebral edge, That's where these things that you're to do with fallacies, so to speak, because I happen to think that as humans, our fallacies are our strengths. If we to kind of lean into our fallacies, I think that makes us stronger, so to speak. And I think when you engage in a sense of vulnerability, as this character does with the music, I think there's ways to sort of kind of find balance, find some sort of ideals, or create this thing, this culture, this solution, so we can coexist. There being the beast and the man actually coexisting, and that's what I thought was so intriguing about this story. And there's so much profound thought in this idea of the beast, so to speak. I think a lot of times when people think about beasts or animals to this degree, there's not much thought. They're just thinking wild, but there's so much more to that type of ideal, or the being that animal, so to speak. So the reason why I ask these questions is because I think there's so much profound thought behind the premise, the creation, and the direction that you've taken this through.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
It's merely just an idea just to explore some of the what's underneath the hood, so to speak, of how you ended up being where you are with this magnificent story, and just taking it to a different level, so to speak. I mean, this is the part where it's just, this is the easier part, because you're just sharing, you're just, giving people what you experienced on the journey, so to speak. So it's a great space to be in, you know.
Thank you for that. You know, the whole story's a metaphor, right? He becomes this monster, right? And when he becomes a monster, and because music is his anchor, you know, it helps him think, and it's like who he is, who he is really. Is he a monster? Even though he looks like one, is he gonna succumb to those primal instincts of the wolf or the monster, or is he gonna stick to who he is, you know, and be someone else? So he has to discover that. It looks like a weakness at first, being the monster, right? Because it's like, oh my God, you know, and he doesn't know what's gonna happen. But it's like, no, he sticks to his gun. So in a way, you know, and that wasn't my intention, Alex, you know, to write it. It just came out that way. But at the end, you know, when I looked at it, it's just, hey, it's kind of like a metaphor. You know, anybody can be a monster, right? I've had some bad moments in my life, right? But yeah, I've also had some good moments where I didn't act out on those terrible instincts that I've developed. Instead, I acted on my good morals, and you know, I didn't have to succumb to those weaknesses that I've acted out on before. So
absolutely, man. Absolutely. Art, you're sort of re-inviting that whole idea of being vulnerable, because art, primarily one of the reasons why it's so beautiful, because it's really just a lot of fallacies on display, so to speak. And you see so many colors, and they're really just they're just different ways. Even trauma, you're sort of turning it into something beautiful, you know. Whether it's music, painting, or words, poetry, it's the same thing. You're transmuting this thing that would perhaps certain people in other hands, it may have been something a bit more destructive, uncontrollable, but in your hands you have this ability to change it and make it into something that actually builds somebody up as opposed to break them down. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about art. So whether it's the Wolfman or Bruce Banner with Betty, you know, you're tapping into something that people have been paying attention, and now you've created your own version of it. And man, you know, that's something to be proud of, you know.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you know, it's funny you just said that. It's like, yeah, how many beautiful things have come out of tragic events, right? Tragic and traumatic events. A lot of artists, you know, they lose somebody, or they have had a traumatic event happen to them, an accident, lose a job, right? Some people are so stuck in their jobs, and then they lose their job, and then they're like, they don't know what to do. Then they start doing something. They start painting, they start drawing, they start writing, and all of a sudden they come up with this great work, and people are like, wow, oh my God, that's amazing. Because sometimes it takes something real strong to bring that out, right? And then others, you know, I didn't have anything like that. Mine just came from a good memory of a good friend, you know, of hanging out with a good friend way back in the day. But I mean, it's all over the world, right? You hear of all these great artists, you know, in every type of art, music, and all that. They've had, you know, real traumatic events, and they've come up with beautiful music, beautiful art pieces. I think one of them was it Van Gogh? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know the whole story about Van Gogh, but he had a hard life, right? And then he died tragically. You have, you know, Pollock, right? Pollock, great American painter, right? You know, that guy was always searching to be recognized, you know, and he had a tragic event, a tragic ending. Heavy drinker, you know, all kinds, you know, and you know, like I said, I love music, Alex, and I love old jazz. I don't know if you like jazz.
I do.
I love jazz from the 40s. Yeah, I love jazz from the 40s and 50s, right? I mean, yeah, and you know, all those great jazz artists from the 50s, you know, when Miles Davis came out, and John Coltrane, and all those Thelonious, all that great music that they came out with, and all the stuff that they had to deal with, right, around them, because they were African American, and how they were treated. They were looked down as second class citizens, and they would go to all these venues and play all this great music, but then after it was over or before, they had to eat in the back, way back in the room. They couldn't be around the regular people, but they were still creating beautiful pieces of work, and so.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah. You mentioned something earlier on. You said Van Gogh, and I was just double checking that I was right about the ear, cutting off his ear and stuff like that. Well, it goes back to exactly what we were speaking about. The Wolfman goes on a destructive path. He might not destroy himself, even though he probably will some way, shape or form, even emotionally, when he see what he's done, but he's still just doing destruction. He's still destroying somebody else. It leads you back to Van Gogh in a sense, because he has this monster in him, and perhaps he's not, that the art doesn't do enough to tame this monster. Whichever way you want to kick it, something forces him to cut his ear off. Do you get what I mean? And that's a loss, no matter how you cut it, sort of thing. Even if it's a situation where the other artist where he slit his just to play the piano better. I can't remember his name. No matter what way you want to cut it, and don't get me wrong, it's not to say that they're not conscious of what they're doing, because it's a sacrifice. And I think most artists, when you want to be something beyond reason, just climb this mountain, this Kilimanjaro situation, you do what you have to do, so to speak. And I think that's what I look at when what I see when I speak about Van Gogh, and I can't remember his name, but this is what we're speaking about. So I suppose for me, I'm curious about what is the ultimate goal of this story? What are you trying to give the people that will explore this story?
I just wanted to, at the time I was writing it and it came out at the end, I just wanted to entertain people. I just wanted to have them enjoy a different angle on the Wolfman, but at the end, when I kept reading it and it was final, I left a cliffhanger in there, and I'm gonna have more books, to continue the story. One thing is, I didn't want my Wolfman to die, right? I wanted the readers to. Yeah, I wanted the reader to embrace my character, to it's like, oh my God, I love this guy, right? It's like, yeah, give me more, right? And I wanted people to like I said, it's a metaphor, it's like when presented with a traumatic situation or a real intense situation, do you stick to who you are, what you grew up, how you grew up, how your parents taught you, or do you act out like an ass? You know what I mean? And be remembered for being, a bad person. So it's like, hey, and then, and also my intent was like for the readers to love, the female lead. She's a badass. Because she becomes part of him. She saves him also, and then the other guy that comes in that looks like an antagonist becomes his ally, and then they become friends. So it's like, again, he was an introvert. Maybe there's people going to read the book and they're introverts, and it's like, hey, this guy does this, and all of a sudden through a traumatic event that looks an event that looks traumatic, but as it progresses, he's blessed with a superpower to say. This is not a superhero story, but it is kind of a hero story, right? Because he becomes a protector, and again, that's part of a metaphor there too. Sometimes we go through things and then all of a sudden, we change, and it's like, hey, our superpower comes out, right? We become an artist, or we become a better person, So right. Hopefully this book offers several things that make you think about yourself. So it's a way to how do you say, go in retrospect about about your life, you know. And again, that wasn't my intent. My intent was just to write an interesting story, something different, you know, and to entertain people.
In all honesty, that's usually how it starts. You know, you just want to just do something, just do this one thing, and it just turns into something bigger than yourself. So I totally understand where you're coming from. But, you know, ultimately, on a grand scheme of things, you're playing a game of light and darkness with the story. You know, you have the Wolfman, which is dark, and you have the human, which is the light, so to speak. And you're just trying to, perhaps this more of a, well, you know, we all have a reflection or pour some of us personality in stories, and perhaps this is part of your experience that you're trying to figure out. Darkness and light, and how to find balance between the two. So something to think about. But man, this is great, man. Thanks so much for giving me some of your time.
I appreciate that. Thank you for having me, Alex. Thank you.
Mind over matter, overcompensating, overstatements, crookedness related. The soul's churn in return. Mental overstimulation. One word. Riveting.